God, guys, I just finished watching Survivor Series Wargames, and CM Punk has returned to WWE. I gotta say, you know, I didn't see it coming the way they did it. Randy Orton is back, all as well. They announced it on Raw prior to Survivor Series, which was smart because they knew that they were going to get all these CM Punk chants. But I mean, I got to say the way that this was done um, was very interesting because you had all these reports. First, there were a lot of teases, between Shinsuke using the GTS and some of the things they were saying on commentary. It was a lot of teases that CM Punk, uh, was coming back, and they were really like milking it like he wasn't. Like they were saying that they wanted to make it abundantly clear that Punk was not going to be coming back. So they tried to stop all the teasers. They tried to stop all the hints that he was coming. And man, I mean, the way they did it at the end was unexpected because it literally looked like the show was about to go off, and then CM Punk music hits. Granted, the fans have been chanting CM Punk throughout the night. I mean, they were chanting CM Punk even during the beginning of the show. Um, you know, because of this being his hometown, Chicago, throughout the main event. Orton, he got a great reaction when he finally did go come out as he should. I was wondering what the reaction for Orton would be like. I'm sure if they were in St. Louis, he probably would have got even more mass reaction because that's his hometown in St. Louis. Uh, so he probably would have got an even huge reaction. But it was great to see Orton back. It's just interesting how they booked this thing. Um, what a night. Orton finally comes back after 18 months. Orton has been gone since May of last year with a serious back injury. Actually, a back injury so severe that his doctors had told him he couldn't even wrestle again. You could kind of see you know when Orton came out, I kind of figured he wasn't going to do too much in the actual match. Sorry guys, my eyes are bothering me. Um, you got to see Orton wasn't going to do too much in the actual match. You can kind of see that uh, he just pretty much wasn't going to take too many bumps. Came out, towards the fourth quarter of the match as it was coming to an end. Did some DDTs. They actually all did DDTs together. Hit some RKO's. Teased that he was going to RKO Jey Uso because of Jay being one of the ones a part of the blow took him out, but instead he RKO'd Dominic. RKO'd uh, you know RKO JD McDonough when they tossed him from the top, of the top rope of the cage to get RKO for massive RKO. So yeah, it was a sweet way to end it. An overall really good show. Um, but man, Orton comes back in a really good moment. The match itself was even good throughout, but it's just interesting how they played it off like Orton wasn't going to show up, and they waited until towards the end of the match to have Orton actually come out. But prior to that, you know because the Judgment Day had the advantage, you know uh, you start off with Finn Balor. He's the first guy for Judgment Day that comes out, and on Cody's team, um, who was it? Jay Uso, the first one to come out. So it was just interesting how they booked it. I mean, interesting how they did it. Wait, no. Jay Uso didn't come out first. I'm trying to think. I can't even think right now. But yeah, when Jey Uso did come out though, that's when Drew was like eager to come out. But then Damon told him, stick to the plan. So, clearly I could see this is just a setup for them to, kick Damon out the group at this point, especially considering that Rhea allowed him to, be the captain of the group and to plan everything. And of course, Dame is the one who eats the pin, similar to the women's match. I will say I think the women's War Games match was probably the better of the two. I mean, what made this match great was just the fact that you had Orton make his infamous return at the end and really get the crowd even more into it than they already were. Because before Orton came out, the crowd was already hot for Jey Uso. Every time he threw a punch or something, they chanted "Yee," and so they were already hot for Jey Uso and Sammy and Cody, so they were already pretty hot for that. So then by the time actually Seth Rollins started the match, yeah. So and Seth Rollins and what's his name? Seth Rollins started the match with Finn Balor. And then it just kind of, then it progressed from there. It had a lot of interesting weapons. It was some type of, uh, I'm not even sure what you would call it, but it was some type of small thing Damien had in his hand. He was hitting, looked kind of like some type of nunchuck or something that he had in his hand. He was hitting. They used some different weapons. They did have the kendo sticks. They did have the tables. Uh, because actually there was a point in the match where Damien put Seth Rollins through that table with a razor's edge when Judgment Day looked dominant, and Drew had his little problems with Daniel. But when they actually got in the match, Drew, his main target was Jay, so they got into it. But you had a lot of creative things here. Cody and Seth using the dumbbell to hit everybody, the little rope with the bell, which actually Michael Cole said that was reminiscent of their match at Hell in a Cell, where that same thing was used against each other, where Cody actually used against Seth in their match at Hell in a Cell. Uh, so a lot of interesting weapons they use here. Actually, Sami Zayn, when he got in the match, he was red hot, and he actually used like a pipe that came from the cage, and and clocked everybody with it. So that was pretty interesting. Um, but there was one spot that looked kind of scary where Damien somehow it looked like his leg almost got tied on the rope. It was like he almost like his leg got stuck. So that was pretty nasty. One particular spot in the match. But yeah, a lot of weapons similar to the women's match as far as the kendo sticks and the steel chairs. The steel chairs actually, I think when Jay came in there, because he was like the second person after Seth. I think was Jay um, on their side. So with Seth and Finn Balor, and then after that, I think after Finn Balor came out, that's when JD McDonough. No, 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 no. Wait a minute. Was it JD McDonough or was it? I think it was JD McDonough because I know. Uh, no, 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 no. It was Damian Priest. Then, because when Jay came out, he told Drew to wait. Um, so I think no, 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 no. I'm right. So yeah, Jaden McDonough came out second. Then on Cody's side, after Seth came, I think the next person that came out was Jay, um, and then that's when Drew wanted to come out, but Damon told him to wait, and then Damon came out, and then after that, uh, that's when um, I think Drew came out before JD McDonough. JD McDonough was like fourth, and then the last person was Dominic Mysterio. That was kind of how it was, uh, but they it was they all came out in the way they came out. But like I said, you know, it was it was what I expected to happen in terms of the match. You just kind of feel bad because in both matches, both War Games matches, this is basically just a way to set up both groups, somebody being kicked out the group, which is unfortunate because we've been seeing a lot of that lately. Even in Triple H era, it just obsessed seems to be obsessed with somebody being kicked out the group or groups breaking up because with Damien, and they've been teasing this for months, even before Jaden McDonough joined the fray, when back in the summer when Finn and was battling Seth for the world title. They've been teasing like dissension, and I think this is pretty much going to be the nail in the coffin for Damian Priest. I really think at this point, he's going to get blamed for the loss, and this is likely going to lead to Damian being exiled and kicked out of the group. Which is a little bit unfortunate. It sucks that the Judgment Day pretty much have lost every big pay per view they've been in. That just seems to be a reoccurring thing. But at the same time, you knew with Orton coming back and with this being Cody's first War Games match, you knew they weren't going to lose. So that was the whole thing with that. But you kind of feel bad for him at the same time. For Damian Priest, that is, but you know, I was expecting at least one heel team to win this thing, but unfortunately, based on the way it ended, you could tell that in both matches, for the women's match, you could tell this is just a way for them to kick Bailey, who's the leader of the group, kick her out of Damage Control because she's going to get blamed for the loss. And she was the one who took the pin, even though Bailey, on multiple occasions, saved, all of the women from getting pinned on her team, and they look like more of a cohesive unit. And you had the moment where Becky and Charlotte embraced, and Michael Cole mentioned how this was the first time they were in the ring together, other than SmackDown, since 2000, since 2 years ago when they faced off at Survivor Series in 2021, which Becky actually won that match. So it was just interesting to finally see them back together. But yeah, a lot of stuff went down prior to the ending, but I just, it's a lot to really get into. But yeah, man, Randy Orton came out and you know and had his massive moment, which was great. It was great. He came out, did his signature moves, and that was pretty much the end of it. Then Cody hit the crossroads on Damian Priest, and they got the win. But before Orton came out, it looked like the Judgment Day had the upper hand, and then Rhea comes out with the briefcase like she's gonna try to cash in after Seth was put through the table, and then that's when Orton came out, and before the ref could even, which that would have been interesting because I've never seen a cash in being done that way, so that would have been interesting, if that happened, because we've never seen a cash in take place in a War Games match. So it was interesting how they booked it as a way to get Orton to come out. Because they were teasing like Orton just wasn't going to come, he just wasn't going to show up. But then he finally does show up. But prior to that, there was a lot of course, you had one point in the match when it was actually a moment in the match where each of them hit their splashes, where Damien directed for each of them to hit their moves. Finn hit the coup de grace. Dominic hit the frog splash, and then JD hit a moonsault, and they all hit it on, between Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins. They hit it on all three of them. So that was a pretty, cohesive moment when that happened. But yeah, you know, I definitely, like I said, I definitely think the women's one was the better of the two. But man, like I said, the way it ended though, with that celebration, them holding their hands, and it literally looked like the show was coming to an end, and then CM Punk comes out. So I didn't see that coming, And I'm not even gonna get into what happened with CM Punk and AEW. All I can say is it's just unfortunate. When you consider how far he was going before all the controversy things happened. But of course, WWE is a different fan base, so the same way Cody Rhodes got heavily cheered, coming back to WWE, CM Punk, in whatever way you think, whatever better way for him to come back than to come back in his hometown. Uh, but it literally seemed like the show was going off the air, especially since Nakamura didn't have that open challenge match that he was kind of teasing. So, but yet CM Punk shows up at the end of the show. So I think, it was just interesting how they, very interesting how they did it at the end. Like, made it look like the show was going off the air and CM Punk just kind of comes out of nowhere. So, man, like I said, the last point, hopefully, things are better for him now, considering what happened when he left AEW, the whole thing with Jack Perry and had that final match with Samoa Joe as the champ at All In, and then got fired. Not long after that because of what happened backstage. So yeah, hopefully he can, hopefully with this at this particular point he can get himself back together. I don't really know, but like I said, it was good to have him back. Um, but it was like I said, just a really really good show overall, though. Even the undercard matches, they were solid. They each match you figure they weren't going to be too long because of the War Games matches. But the Dragon Lee and Santos Escobar, really good match they had against each other. You know, a big moment for Dragon Lee. To be on the PLE this early on and making his debut and on the pay per view. He had his match with Santos, and it was really good. Really good match while it lasted. Santos, as I expected, got the upper hand. Um, but Dragon Lee looked really good in defeat, and then the Miz is probably the best the Miz has looked in a long time. I don't think anybody expected him to beat Gunther, but they really made you believe, especially when he hit that low blow and then hit the knee, the low blow, and then the skull crusher now, and Gunther kicked out, and he constantly targeted the knee throughout the match. Gunther between his chops and you know the him hitting him with the power bomb, which the Miz kicked out of, but ultimately it was the Boston Crab, and almost like a lion tamer, somewhat of putting him in that hold that caused him to kick out. Because when he landed the splash from the top rope, he hit the Miz from the back, and that's when he went with the submission, to make him tap. But the Miz, uh, like I said, hit a bunch of dragon screws, even some kicks where the fans were kind of chanting like Bryan Danielson. So yeah, um, it definitely, and also I do want to mention they did mention in commentary that had he won the title for the ninth time, he would have tied record with Chris Jericho. So definitely shows you that how different things are in the company now. That they're bringing up guys that you wouldn't think they would still mention. It's been the other show, even though they got their thing with AEW. But it was interesting they brought that up. Michael Cole in commentary, but yeah. So that match was solid. The Dragon Lee and Santos Escobar match was really good. Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stocks. Um, Probably the weakest of the ones, but I do think for what it was, it was good, not great. I think it was okay for what it was. I do think that maybe if they had a little bit more time, Zoe Starks would have really been able to show even more so what she can do. But for what but I think what really killed is the fact that the crowd was just literally just pro Rhea. Like any offense that Zoe gave, like the crowd was just all Rhea. It really wasn't much fan support for Zoe. She had a little bit of chance, but it was mostly Rhea chance. So that was the whole thing with that kind of made it, rough. But yeah. So that was just a little brief analysis of the pay per view overall. And like I said, the women's match I think stole the show, but as far as the actual match, the men's match it was more so about the moment, with Orton, and then the ending with CM Punk. But the women's match, they between the kendo sticks, the steel chairs, damage control looking cohesive throughout the match, and fortunately Bailey takes the pin at the end, but but it was a lot of amazing moments like Io Sky hitting that moonsault from the top of the cage. Well, hitting the jump diving from the top of the cage with the trash can on her head. That was amazing. Charlotte hitting the moonsault from the top of the cage. Uh, the weapons and that were being used. So it was just a lot. Um, Even like at one point, Chelsea, she was going for like a dive and it looked really smooth. But once she got caught with like a cutter, I think that she was going for it. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, CM Punk is back. Randy Orton is back. This was something. Definitely a really really interesting show. Really good show overall. I definitely will say that. So that's pretty much it, guys. You know, these PLEs, Triple H, you can see he wants to keep it short and sweet as far as the matches, and I, I can see why it was only 5 matches. I mean, the War Games matches take up a lot of time, so you could definitely understand it from that perspective. So that's pretty much it, guys. So pretty much the folks away from this route. Tell you guys, peace.